Ang Chilusana Asaknakuch. My name is Carter Price. I'm from Unalaska, Alaska, which is a small island on the Aleutian chain off of Alaska. And that's where my ancestors come from. We're Unangach. That's where my wife and her family come from. She's Unangach. And yeah, so the Unangach side of who I am is from my mom's side. And her grandmother and her mom. And um, as a kid, I always knew I was Alaska Native. I always knew that's was part of my identity, but not until I think about high school time frame is when I really started to like think and realize like, oh, this is part of my identity. How do I want to reconnect? Or, you get on this life path and you have these choices like reconnection or, choose something that you're passionate about. And that was really the time I started doing that. And a lot of family values come from just my grandmother and her home. Like, my grandmother, her nickname was Honey. Everyone called her Honey. That's how I knew her growing up. And I never called her by her first name. But she, she really was a strong woman in the sense of like caring for her family, caring for her community. She was a health worker that would travel to smaller communities as well. So I saw that the tenderness and caring like really, really closely. And I think that stuck with me. Um, Growing up, her home was a place of like safety and um, we'd always have family dinners and we'd always, she taught me about like fishing. You bring the fish home, we can cut it together and cook it right then and there. And she she just always was willing to provide however she could. And that always stuck with me. Just one of the kindest people I'll ever, know. And um so that's where it starts. And I think that language wasn't huge because she went to boarding schools when she was a child, and the language was, taken from her. And that passed down to my mother as well to us. But what she really, really focused on was like subsistence,
Mm.
food, gathering together, and being like a safe space with our family. So our family was always, our center. And so that's where it started for me, just being able to fish and provide for my family as much as I could as, a young child, always wanting to be on the beach and whatnot, but then spending time with my grandmother, my mom, picking berries at her secret berry spot. Those memories stick with me like so much. Yeah, so yeah, in the Unanga culture, it's a little different. We don't have clans or um, systems like that. We claim our, mothers. Like I'll let people know if they're familiar with the region. Like, yeah, my family's the McGlashan family. That's my grandma Honey's, last name, and or yeah, I'm related to the Bear family. That's my grandmother's maiden last name, and it clicks with people. They know the family names, and gives them a sense of connection early on if that's what we're talking about. I was born in Anchorage, but I was raised on Unalaska Island, and that's where my grandmother, my aunties, and family lived. So really, really close by, like down the hill, maybe a 10-minute walk. I'd pass by her house walking to school in the morning. Um, Walking back home from school, I'd pass by and say hi. And Yeah, so really close in relationship. Yeah, my traditional tattoos are represent my mother's, family on her side. So my mom has these tattoos, my sisters has these tattoos. I have them. Um, but my wife is also Unangax, so her tattoos, my son will, take on those. And like my sister, if she has kids, her children will have our family tattoos. So I forgot to point that out earlier, but yeah, it's something special and you know represents who we are. I think it's really cool because my sister and my mom made the design themselves, looking
Oh,
through, old textbooks and whatnot. For them, that was like ceremony for them,
yeah.
like being able to design or what represents our family, what's going to represent our family down the line, and um, really special. Yeah, a lot of designs, are familial, even not just only tattoos, but also in the basket designs, the art you see as well. We live in Wasilla, which is an hour north of Anchorage, but
Mm.
her whole family, where she grew up, was in Anchorage, and so she has really strong familial ties. And we visit, as much as we can. Her parents have been so helpful with like raising our son and giving us time, if we need a babysitter, they'll watch him. Yeah, she has lots of aunties, uncles that are just in and out of Anchorage and um, family dinners. This winter, we started going to our local semi-pro hockey games. All of her aunties are always there having a good time, and one of her cousins plays for the hockey team, but it's just a fun time for family to come together and we all sit in the same like section in the arena and it's family is huge for us. For me, I was not separated from my family, but I was living in Anchorage. The rest of my family was in Unalaska, and for some time, I was alone and I just didn't have that sense of community until
Mm.
I met my wife and, I was spending time with her family. Also being Unangan, I saw the importance of family and
Mm.
dinners, cooking, and, I like clung on to that. That was so important. My wife, Chloe, always mentions that he's a dadda's boy and he very much is very, um, he loves being around dada and always has me picking him up but I think as my role as his father, it's making sure I give him the right tools and the right tools to pursue whatever passion he wants in the future, whether it's, something like playing the guitar or reconnecting with his culture or starting the foundation of just connection to culture. I think that is super important. And just really creating my goal is if I could create a son that is, that loves his family, respects his wife, cares about his culture. I think, Chloe and I could say we did a good job, but we've done our best, surrounding him by culture, bringing him to dance practice, our traditional dance practice. When he was a young baby, small, we were taking a language course together, our traditional language course, and he would sit and listen with us, and we try our best to, speak it around him as well. And um, I think just surrounding him by his culture and empowering him to be strong in different senses. It's not just physical, but spiritual and mental. And um, if he could be strong in those areas, I think we've done a good job. Yeah,
Yeah.
traditionally, just from the notes and journals that these explorers took, it was the uncles at a certain age, maybe I think like past 5, is when the uncles would take the children as
Mm.
well as the aunties if it was a girl. And then they would teach them, the ways of the importance of providing or um, basketry was big for the women, teaching the young women how to, create baskets or sew or cook and things like that. But as for the uncle side, yeah, it would be my wife's brothers, and they would, train or teach Kaique the important life lessons, which I think is a cool way of being. I wish my uncle on my mom's side passed away when I was a baby, but
Mm.
I think it would have been really cool to learn from him. He was a really good fisherman, and um, I, I think it would have been an amazing experience to spend more time with him. I think the term that I've been taught or learned through some of my classes is like reimagining ceremony.
Mm.
And I'm currently in the process of, doing that with some of the work I do, but it's taking what you know from the past, taking what you've experienced, and then also looking forward to reimagine ceremony for the future generations without, trying to change it completely, but just integrating them both and really, because people like saying like if our ancestors had our technology, they would have used it. They would have, created something more beautiful or have similar ideas as us. And um, I think it's important to do that. And um, so yeah, it's all about reclaiming and doing our best with what we have. From just my knowledge and readings and research I've done, there was a pretty not structured, but men were providers, hunters, um, but the women would provide the sewing to for their clothing as well as their kayaks, their
Mm.
everyone is a part of that process. But from what I know, I don't think there were much women hunters. But of course, today, um, those rules have broken, and if we're able to, preserve the culture, and if there's people that are interested or willing, we're open to that. And I know there are also recognized two-spirited people in our culture, and oftentimes they were spiritually powerful, not necessarily shamans, but very, very intellectually grounded in the spiritual realm. I think it'll touch a soft spot in who I am that I maybe not even know yet. But I think just the relationship I have with my son, we're very active. We like to play outside. We like to have, fun, play with cars, and he's such a boy. Like he loves car tires and playing in the dirt, and um I I think it would be so cool to see just the passions of my future daughter, and seeing, you know, how she, is similar to myself as well as my wife. My wife's an amazing artist. She uses traditional materials and does contemporary earrings and
Mm.
art. I have some of her art on the wall behind me as well, and um, it's just I would just love to, see that be brought up out of her. And um, like I already know if, I had a daughter, she would, I would just spoil her so much and just do my best to protect her. And yeah, I think the mindset might, change because, I'm obviously, I don't feel the same, I don't have the same experiences as a female, but I know how I can protect or create a safe environment for my wife, future daughter. Um, so I know the things that I can do, and if I can just, do that for them, I would be happy. And I obviously can't teach my daughter about, periods. I've never had one, or what pregnancy is or feels like, but I have the experience and outside perspective to, share as much as I can, but I'm not gonna teach, if that makes sense. I think there's ceremony in the small things like cooking and berry picking. There's, really there's something spiritual about, being out on the land or just in silence with, Mother Nature and um harvesting and providing in that sense. I think there's ceremony and, you know, in doing those, it could be, considered rituals other than like a task or, a hobby. It's providing for your family. The funny thing is, um, so my wife introduced me to the Anchorage Unangax dancers. They've been a dance group it was revitalized in the 90s. Um, our coordinator, our dance instructor, they were a part of the revitalization of dance, the Unangax dance. For quite a while, we say it went to sleep. It was taken from us during, the boarding school times and um, colonial times when our language went away as well. Um, but my wife actually introduced me to the group. Oh no, forgive me. My friend Dustin introduced me to the group. He invited me, and that's where I met my wife. She's the most beautiful, dancer, and I couldn't stop, staring at her, and I just fell in love with her, dance movements, and um, just for me, it was incredibly like empowering to hear the drums, to see the movements of our ancestors and hear the language, so it's so empowering and, it just pulls so much emotion out of you. For my experience, I mean, I was in a similar situation. Just at that point in time when I was invited, I was going to school, a little disconnected, a little antisocial. Um, like I hadn't met Chloe and her family yet, so I was, separated from my family, but seeing community and focused around our culture, that was something I wanted to hold on to. And like I said, the emotions and empowerment that it, felt seeing, people be proud of their culture, wear the regalia is so important, and it made me want to join the dance group. And I started drumming and practicing, and it's just being a part of community is so important. I mean, you meet people that you know would have never thought or known you'd end up marrying 2 years down the line. And um it's so impactful. I mean, getting on stage and seeing people from your community as well as other communities in Alaska just celebrate and cheer and clap, and um, it's so empowering, and I think young men should absolutely take the chance. It's obviously nerve-wracking, but being surrounded by your culture is it it changes you. Just listening is probably one of the best, not pieces of advice, but I've learned to listen to my wife, listen to my parents, my mother's, and it it takes time and maybe even practice doing that. It's not so easy. Um, some just being the way I was raised, I kind of stubborn or have a hard head, but Chloe has definitely just not opened my eyes, but just through conversations and understanding, it's like I see that her knowledge and her feelings are incredibly valid. And if it's even like a feeling that she has and she thinks maybe we should just call it a day, or let's actually postpone this plan that we're doing. It's like you take that into consideration 10 out of 10 times, and often, she's right. Like there's a reason, like there's either, that mother nature, not mother, but the mother instinct and kicks in, or um things like that. It's, men, we're not like super intelligent historically. We can provide, but I think the really being able to like understand the perspectives of others, women are incredibly innate and natural at. Um, I think they have an understanding of how the world works different than men, and um, like I said, just listening and being present with them is um, it's changed our marriage, and it's changed how we teach our son, and it's been incredibly helpful. I did want to talk about some of the work I do, um, and it relates to this topic we're talking about of matrilineal process and culture. But I am the repatriation coordinator for my tribe, and
Mm.
that's returning ancestors and artifacts from museums and institutions like that back to our rightful, lands. And I learned about this word called rematriation. Um, you might have heard it as well, but it's, returning to Mother Nature to heal, to, regenerate, to, break down traumas. And I've made that, kind of a center of, pursuits, and making sure that tribal members know that, we're involving rematriation in this process. And we're actually really close to returning some ancestors at the end of June. Fingers crossed is our plan, and I'm excited to reimagine ceremony as well. But my mantra during this work is, when our ancestors return, the land will heal as well as our people. So um, it's all rematriation, and I believe in it, wholeheartedly, and I'm so excited to see the different levels of healing go on in our community. And um, yeah, I just wanted to finish with that. Thank you.